On the morning of January 3rd, 2022, in Slaughter, Louisiana, Sheila Fletcher called 911 because her daughter Lacey wasn't breathing. When police arrived, the body of her daughter Lacey was technically in the couch. What I mean by that is she had melted or quote-unquote fused into the couch from a lack of movement. The autopsy showed that she had been eating the couch, and the coroner said that she had been dead for probably 24 to 48 hours. The conditions in that house were so bad that the coroner who responded to the scene said that the stench was so bad that it would almost make you run out of the house. He also said that he cried for a week and he couldn't eat for a week because of what he saw. And he said that it was one of the worst cases that he had ever seen. The cause of death was acute medical neglect, so her death was ruled a homicide. The coroner said that there was evidence that proved that she had been on that couch for a minimum of 12 years. Her parents were her caregivers, supposedly, and they said that she had locked-in syndrome, but Lacey hadn't been to a doctor in 20 years, so there wasn't an official diagnosis. They said she had Asperger's and social anxiety that she developed while she was in high school. They also claimed that they cleaned her regularly, but they didn't take her to a doctor because she was never sick. The district attorney shared images from that scene with dailymail.com, but he didn't release them for the public because most of them were just too graphic to show. I'm posting a picture that is blurred out because it's really gross and I don't want to get anyone sick to their stomach, but if you want to see the unblurred image, it's out there. Trust me, it's gross. In one of the images, Lacey looks like she's almost buried up to her shoulders in the deep hole that's in the couch that her body had worn out over the years, and it rubbed away the cushioning. So the Daily Mail described the images, and they said that she was slumped over on her left side with her right arm across the top half of her body near her neck. Her eyes and her mouth were open, and her face was covered in large red blotches, and her hair was also matted. Her waist was all over her body. It was even in her ears and in her hair. A commode was beside the couch, and the skin on her backside had literally worn away. She had bed sores that were so bad that you could see the bone. Before the images were shown to the jury, they made sure that medics were on standby just in case, because most people are not used to seeing images that horrific. Her parents were arrested and released after 36 hours on a $300,000 bond each. And if her parents are convicted later this year, they face up to life in prison with no parole. And after her death, her mother had the audacity to post on her Facebook that Mom and Dad love you so much.
Tonight, new information coming to light in the case of two deadbeat-ass parents near Baton Rouge, Louisiana, charged in a severe case of neglect. Sheila and Clay Fletcher are now out of jail after being indicted on second-degree murder charges. Their 36-year-old daughter died in a way no one should. Severe and extreme neglect. She literally marinated in a couch for years, basically melted into it, and was found covered in feces, urine, and we're told large maggots. Now, if you thought details of the story we first told you about were just disgusting, Nakamoto says there's more.
When, paramedics help arrived and then the coroner arrived, he said, we need to treat this like a crime scene. Basically, he could tell it was just utter neglect, like a latrine or a cesspool that she was living in. Just horrific conditions. She had open wounds to the bone from her feet all the way to her buttocks, and essentially had gnats and maggots all around her body.
Oh my God, that's just incredible and just so damn sad. Now, how did they live in a house? Obviously, there are going to be smells. How did they live in that house?
So that's what's so interesting. I guess they were just immune to the smell after living in the filth for so long. Listen, we got a picture from the living room of the floors that were buckling underneath the sofa, the wooden floors, because it was just layers upon layers of human waste all on those wood floors. One of her causes of death was starvation, and they said she was so hungry she was actually eating parts of the sofa around her. During her autopsy, they found sofa foam inside her stomach.
What do we know about these damn parents? Who are they?
So
what did they do for a living? I mean, just who are these people?
They lived a normal life. The neighbors say they would see them come and go. They were always the church-going type, as they described them, always in church every Sunday. The mother worked for a prosecutor in the city of Zachary, which is probably about 15 minutes from where they live. And it's not really clear what the dad did. He may have been involved in some nonprofit type work, but it's really kind of unclear what he did for a living. Some of our sources say that the daughter, who was nonverbal at the time of her death, was very verbal when she was in school. She was on the volleyball team and she could recite things like that. Some of the people that went to school with her, she really digressed over the last few years. And the parents, instead of picking up the phone to make a call and say, hey, we need some help over here to treat our daughter's condition, they just let her rot away on a sofa. It's literally one of the most disturbing stories we've ever covered in my 15 years doing this here in the Baton Rouge area.
Did they ever have visitors over to the house, relatives over to the house? What did people say if they did, or did they just keep her locked up? Was she placed in like a living room or some secret room where no one would see her in that house?
She was actually in the living room, and here's the kicker. The mother literally had her recliner next to the sofa where her daughter was literally rotting away. And so the sofa was positioned in front of the TV, and she apparently had been there for possibly up to 10 years or so. We talked to one of the neighbors who I had asked, hey, have you ever been in their house? He said, yeah, I've been in their house. Well, how long ago was it? He said 15 years ago. We actually broke the news to the neighbor that Lacey had died. He didn't even know that his own neighbor's kid across the street had died 5 months ago. So they kind of kept to themselves, and it seems like over the past few years, they really retreated and they were basically like hermits.
You see so many pictures with the mother and father with their LSU shirts on, out having a good time, all while their daughter is sitting there just wasting away and dying.
The autopsy was completed back in March, and it was immediately ruled a homicide. Prosecutors were pretty clear they were going to be able to get a charge of cruelty to the infirm or maybe even manslaughter or negligent homicide, but no one really expected that they'd be able to get a second-degree murder indictment, which, if convicted, would carry a mandatory life sentence in prison. Second-degree murder shows they had intent to kill their daughter, who literally rotted away on the sofa for all those years, and it appears they did nothing to help her.
Police are releasing new details about the arrest of 83-year-old Harvey Marcelin, a transgender woman from Brooklyn, charged with second-degree murder, evidence tampering, and concealing a dead body.
Miss Harvey and another unknown female enter Home Depot in Manhattan. They purchase a Sawzall, trash bags, and cleaning solutions.
And police say this video shows Marcelin in her wheelchair days later buying supplies that were later used after the victim, 68-year-old Susan Layden, had been dismembered.
This is a gruesome and barbaric homicide, which resulted in a headless torso being disposed of on a New York City corner.
The investigation began last week when that torso was found in a shopping cart in Brooklyn near Atlantic and Pennsylvania Avenues, and a leg was found soon later. During a search of Marcelin's Cypress Hills apartment, police say they found the head of the victim, and Marcelin was then taken into custody. Police say that while she was in the store buying supplies, the foot of the victim was with her in the wheelchair.
The bottom of the foot, the leg from the knee down, she was sitting on. You know, this is a gruesome and barbaric homicide which resulted in a headless torso being disposed of on a New York City corner, and it takes a serial killer off our street. So I'd like to draw your attention to February 27th at approximately 11:40 hours. We observed our victim enter 50 Pennsylvania Avenue with the same shopping cart she was later found dead inside. She resides at a senior home for the LGBTQ+ community in Fort Greene. On March 1st, our perpetrator, Miss Harvey, and another unknown female enter Home Depot in Manhattan. They purchase a Sawzall, trash bags, and cleaning solutions, and both individuals returned to Pennsylvania Avenue. The next day, Miss Harvey is observed walking to the intersection of Atlantic and Pennsylvania, leaving our shopping cart behind. Approximately 6 hours later, a male observes the cart and calls 911. Upon arrival, they observed a black plastic bag inside a gray bag in a shopping cart. Inside that black bag was the torso of a human body. On March 3rd in the early afternoon, detectives arrive at 50 Pennsylvania Avenue and receive information our person of interest is on the 3rd floor. In apartment 3DD, they observed blood splatter and several trash bags. The next day, March 4th, detectives executed a search warrant at that location where recover human body parts inside. On March 7th, a human leg is recovered on Jamaica Avenue. I'd like to show you the video of Miss Harvey in a store. She gets up out of the wheelchair there, and the leg is right there on the seat.
It was the same type of plastic bag that we recovered at the scene, and as you saw in the video, it was behind the lower back, right around the 99-cent store. So yes, she had it with her.
Investigation into this incident led detectives from the 7-5 precinct and Brooklyn North homicide to gather evidence which led to a grand jury indictment of a Harvey Marcelin, aka Marcelin Harvey, who was on lifetime parole for manslaughter and whom resides at 50 Pennsylvania Avenue, apartment 3D. Her record includes 5 previous arrests: in September 1957 for a felony assault, in May of 1962 for booking, in March of 63 for a rape, in April of 63 for a homicide up in Harlem where a shot and killed a female. For this offense, she received a sentence of 20 years to life and was released in May of 1984 to lifetime parole. And the final arrest in November of 85 in Central Park, a homicide where the victim was stabbed and cut up and the female dumped in body bags. This is just the latest of a list of heinous offenses conducted over a period of a lifetime by Miss Harvey, and we can only hope that she can do no more.
Harvey, look up, Harvey. Harvey, how are you? I need a lawyer. I need a lawyer.